thank you very much for coming, and thank you very much that you decided to pay. I was told that Mali needed for increased security here. If it's so cheap, it means that it's no reason for that. I mean, cheap my life. I'll try to talk today about modern Russia, about past, present, and future. In this short period of time of Russia, it's just more than a little bit more than 2 decades. Modern Russia, I mean Russia which started with Gorbachev, with Yeltsin, and then with Putin. And everything what is up to nowadays is the past. The present, it means the last event in Russia for maybe the last half a year, and future, it means future. First of all, I try to very briefly, and we'll do so. I'll speak maybe half an hour, maybe less, and then I prefer to spend time for your questions and answering for your question. I think that it's absolutely amazing what happened for the last 2 decades in Russia, because in very short time, the almost all law of development of society were demonstrated, and Russia demonstrated as example. At the end of 80s, at the beginning of 90s, Russia passed through revolution. For me, revolution means the change from less effective society to more effective society. In these terms, let's say in February, the previous century, in February, revolution happened. And in November, counter-revolution happened. And Yeltsin time, it means revolution, and Putin time, it means counter-revolution, in my understanding. What does mean less effective to more effective? I think that the last 2 centuries proved that the self-organized society is more effective than control from the top. It is just the result of practice, nothing more. And Russia made attempt to move to more effective society. The second time in the end of 80s, beginning of 90s, and then start to make step back when Putin took the power. If we analyze Yeltsin time, Russia passed through a lot of new development, and created a lot of new institutions, which were step by step become more and more effective, with a lot of mistakes. And nevertheless, at that time present a feeling of freedom and understanding what it means. And in my classification, my personal classification, the movement to freedom passed through 2 stages. The first stage is the understanding that to be independent is better to be dependent, and this is the first step when you just feel that it's better. And the second step, which is more complicated, is how to fight, how to keep that, and to keep that, it's no way except to fight every day for that. It's happened all over the world, even in countries who are in democracy centuries. At the end of the previous century, Yeltsin dropped power, and Putin came as successor of Yeltsin. And I would like to stress that as successor, it means that he presents himself as the person who will continue reform without sometimes tragical mistakes which Yeltsin have done. Unfortunately, from the very beginning, it's turned out that he's not successor. Maybe for me it was, I was in a unique situation because I knew him long time before, and at the very beginning, when he took a position of president, me personally recognized that he is doing steps which impossible to improve, and these steps definitely is changing the new development of Russia. Many people were happy with that, and if we analyze their statements of some very important politicians in Russia, very famous politicians in Russia, like Nemtsov, like Chubais, for example, you recognize simple how happy they were with Putin and how they applaud what Putin tried to implement in Russia at that time. And really, to return back to this time, very beginning of Putin presidential power, we clearly recognize that what he started to do, it looks like what people were waiting for, because his steps, let's say, fighting against the oligarchs, saying that we are not able to be so open in mass media because it's a lot of lie, a lot of blackmail and so. And people like that. People were waiting that really it looks like what happened in the 90s, like chaos. And people were happy that someone who is young, who has a lot of energy, present what they were thinking that time. That really Russia is stolen, that people who were nobody before took a lot of power in Russia. And at that time, people didn't recognize that reform, formal reform, which Putin started to implement, they create basis for returning back to authoritarian power. I just want to remind you the very beginning of Putin's presidential term, when he decided to create sub-regions, seven sub-regions, and when he issued the decree which allow him as president to dismiss governors if prosecutors start investigation against them. In other words, already at the very beginning, it was clear that he is doing step back from democracy. Again, I was lucky because I was very close to that, and maybe I was really the first one who recognized the dangers of what's happening. And in 2000, because of really a lot of tension between Putin and between me and between some groups of people, I left Russia. And I remember well when I came to Great Britain, and when I also present my vision in audience, in different audience, with politicians, with students, in Oxford and Cambridge. I think one time I have been here as well. And I remember well that at the very beginning of 2000, people hate what I tried to present. They hate that Putin is bad guy. They said, no, contrary, Putin is good guy, and it's the reason why he pushed you out from the country. And you are bad guy. You are oligarch. You stole the country. You are criminal. And I remember well that around 90% of audience think like that. And I try to explain that every situation has a logic, I mean, as far as development of society. And if Putin starts to do this step, logically, he's not able not to do the second step, not is able to do the third step, the third step. And not because I know who is Putin, because just I understand the way how it's happening. Because it's a law of every society, how democracy is developing and how authoritarian power is returning back. We already have this experience. And it's a reason why, for me, was absolutely clear what will happen in the next years. On the other hand, definitely, what happened in Russia for the last decade, I would like to say, is absolutely incredible. Because if, let's say, we have been in the previous century, in the 20th century, even in the middle of the 20th century, this process of understanding and growing of society in understanding what is happening took at least 20, 30 years, maybe 40 years. But now, because of absolutely new technology of spreading of information, it's absolutely clear that all events happening are like a squeezing tide for freedom, and went to the streets, to Bolotnaya Square, and so. So it's natural result of development of Russia for the last decade. And this, let's say, the past. The present. I would like to say several words about what is happening. In my understanding, this explosion, which happened several months ago, on the one hand, for many people, it's absolutely unusual. Why? Many years, just 1,000, just 2,000 people, the same people came to the streets, just in 1 or 2 cities in Russia, in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. Kremlin felt completely quiet. Elite felt completely quiet, and really in couple weeks, 10,000 people came to the streets. 100,000 people came to the streets. What happened? And definitely different politicians, different analytics, they try to understand why it's so. And me as well, I also try to understand for myself. And for myself, I have a clear answer to this question. I call these people who came to the streets and to squares of Moscow, of other cities, so-called born not in USSR. It's people. There are people who mentally form in new reality. Mainly in 10 Yeltsin time, in 10 Yeltsin years, in spite of all mess, what was happening, they are really free people. They were able to travel abroad, they were able to read everything they like, and they can try to, they start to try to present themselves as a power, as a result of independency and freedom from inside. And no chance to stop these people. And my definition is born in USSR, born not in USSR means that people grow mentally, in open society. They're able to have personal experience, they were able to learn themselves, to understand themselves, and to make conclusions themselves. And it means that they don't accept lie and hypocrisy as a result. Because for me, absolutely clear that the mainstream of mankind today is the transparency. And as a result of transparency is exclusion of lie and hypocrisy. Because the world becomes so transparent that impossible to lie, impossible to trick people like it happened even 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And I think this is the biggest difference between mentality of born in USSR, Homo Sovieticus, like me, for example, yeah, and those who formed mentally, not in USSR, not who formed mentally in open society. And no chance to stop these people, no chance to change anything. And it's absolutely clear that future and even present belong to these people already. And now a little bit about future, what will happen as the result. We know that officials, Kremlin, and not only them, even many from opposition, were not prepared at all to this development. And as you know, at the 4th of March we'll have election in Russia, presidential election. We know well that it's a real battle, And there is no doubt that even Putin really fights strong for presidential chair, definitely having a lot of resources, a lot of mass media under control, a lot of people who serve him, and he really needs at the first time to prove that he is leader. And on the other hand, there are new generation who is not able to accept it, who are not prepared to accept it, and they feel hypocrisy, they feel lie, and they understand perfectly there is no chance for these people to change their mind. I just give you a funny example. I recognized that recently. Maybe you remember the man whose name is Ligachev. He was one of the key person of Communist Party of Soviet Union. And once I present at the lecture of Shatrov. Shatrov was a very famous Russian, let's say, writer for theater, yeah. And it was at the 80s. It was the end of the 80s, yes. And he said, "Look, this I remember well, Mr. Ligachev. In 1956, he was the most progressive inside of Communist Party, and now he's so much back because he was progressive in 56, and he continued to present the same vision in 60s, in 70s, in 80s, but society was moving forward, and Ligachev became absolutely back." And I thought about Gorbachev. It's a funny story that in the middle of 80s, Gorbachev leads society. Then, at the very beginning of 90s, he just in one day left the train in future and stayed on platform. And train continued to move forward. Yeltsin took power to move forward. Then Yeltsin lost power, Putin took leadership and returned train back and passed Gorbachev already. And now we again listen to Gorbachev as a leader of democracy. It's just characteristic of some events which we are looking for, which were present. And there are new and as far as future is concerned, we have real problem which officials try to convince us, saying that okay, you think that Putin is a bad guy, maybe, but who is better? Who is able to take power? First of all, it's absolutely hypocritical because everything what existing regime tried to make for the last decade, it just completely destroyed any opposition. No chance for any opposition to survive. And on the other hand, it's absolutely clear if you today try to analyze who is the most logical in presentation of political position in Russia, and you will be surprised that it's Zyuganov. It does not matter that I don't like what he presents. It doesn't matter that I opposite what he presents. But he's the most logical, and it's clear absolutely why. Because he has ideology behind of him. And all leaders of opposition, including so popular Navalny, for example, they don't have any ideology. They try to present immediately the program. But the program, it means kilometers, it means tons, it means money. But what does mean future? No program, never program give answer to that question. And it's absolutely clear that there is not a problem of absence of leader in opposition. The problem is absence of ideology, clear ideology. And today we can simple to say that at least three ideology opposition presents. One is liberal ideology, the second is nationalistic ideology, and the third is socialistic ideology. And no one is formed as ideology. It's the reason why impossible to create real power against of existing regime. We are happy, we are lucky that Putin as well doesn't have ideology. But if Putin would have ideology, it will be much more complicated for opposition to fight against what was happening. And maybe the last point, what I would like to mention, just example from my, and I think this may be the most important for each of us. I would like to present just one example from my personal life. I just recently started to analyze why, me personally, I'm so unhappy what is happening. Why I decided to fight? Why not to join Putin when he took power, and I was one who helped him to take power? And there are definitely a lot of speculation that Putin decided to clean, to push oligarchs out. Now it's clear that it's not so. A lot of speculation that, let's say, me personally, I asked him some favor and he did not give me favor, and we broke our relations. I don't want to comment that. I just start for myself to think why it's happened that I decide to fight for Yeltsin in '96. I decide to fight for Putin in '99. And I would like to say that there were maybe few people who believe in '96 that Yeltsin able to win elections against Putin. There were even less than few who believe that Putin able to win elections against of Primakov and Lushkov. I mean, the first was the parliament election in '99. And I remind the story which happened with me when I was around 18, 19 years old. And I think that this is the most important story in my life. And that's the reason why the first time in audience I'd like to present this story. At that time, the first exhibition of United States happened in Moscow. Research and Development, as I remember the name of this exhibition. It was, I think, 63, 64. And my friend, he served this exhibition. He was translator. He passed through university, through Institute of Maria Teresa. It's for specialized in translators. And he called me a very late evening and told, Boris, do you want to join my family, his wife, because there will be people from the exhibition, Americans. It was like people from the moon. And that time, and I was happy to join him. I was a little bit surprised because everything controlled by KGB, even definitely all foreigners, particularly Americans. And I came to his apartment, very regular, very regular Moscow two-room apartment, and we spent almost all night together. And I was surprised there were people from Голос Америки, from Voice of America. Very famous names that time. Tamara Dombrovskaya, Nikita Grigorovich Barsky. They were like idols in Soviet Union, because all people who pay attention to politics, they listen to at night time Voice of America, because the officials try to stop transmission and so on. And I faced them, and I was so surprised because of two reasons. It's turned out that they fight against of war in Vietnam. I said, come on, how it could happen? They present Russia, Soviet Union as a devil, and they fight against of American government in the United States. And on the other hand, they are so-called ideological group fighting against of communism. It was illogical for me. But the most illogical and the most impressive for me was that all of them, each of them, regularly go to streets of New York, Washington, other cities, fighting against the war in Vietnam and thinking that he exactly himself able to stop the war. I was absolutely shocked, because the common understanding in Soviet Union, and unfortunately even now among of the most people, is that I can't influence to anything at all. Everything is already decided. Everything, not me, it's Putin or Kremlin or Sechin or Surkov, but not me. I can't influence to that. And as you know well, exactly those people stopped the war in Vietnam. Exactly those people. Because they were sure that each of them able to stop the war. And without him, maybe not. And I just just recognized that maybe even recently, maybe a couple of years ago, that the source of my belief that I can do anything or everything, I can influence personally to in absolutely difficult situation, in absolutely impossible situation. It's the base, it's the most important what I reach in my life. And I'm sure that the basic difference between those who born and not in USSR is exactly this point. Each of them is sure that he can change life in the better way. Thank you very much.
Presidential elections.
Definitely yes. More than any other candidate.
Because you said that the only candidate with logic is Zyuganov.
No, I said that it's absolutely correct. That I said that only who is logical is Zyuganov because he has ideology. On the other hand, I mentioned that this ideology I don't accept. I don't like this ideology. Yes, I fight against all this ideology. But as far as Prokhorov is concerned, definitely he doesn't have ideology which he formulated. But me personally, I know him well. I know what he's thinking, what he understands as a future for the country. And the problem is just that he did not formalize that, what is important. Like Marx, Engels formalized in 19th century as a manifesto of Communist Party, yeah? And later on the other communist leaders. It means that, I just want to explain my answer to your question. I'm sure that Prokhorov is logical, but he's not structurized enough that to present this logic to society. But as far as personally I know him, I understand his basic targets which he wants to reach, and definitely, again, I want to stress that he is the best from the other candidates because he is really has experience. He understands mistakes which we have done. He understands mistakes which have done existing power. That question, I think it's logical to continue. I'm sorry, instead of you, is he project of Kremlin or not? Does he has any chance to win? And the answer is, unfortunately, he has a project of Kremlin, and he doesn't have any chance to win. Why what? Why his project of Kremlin? He doesn't have chance to win because he has his project of Kremlin. The other point is, does it mean that Prokhorov is under 100% control of Kremlin? And does it mean that Prokhorov will not use any opportunity to stop this control? Definitely, he will use this opportunity. Definitely, he has some flexibility, not a lot. The basic question is a little bit different for me. The basic question is, and I tried to present this my position openly. I wrote 4 letters addressed to Putin, addressed to Patriarch, addressed to candidates to presidential chair, and addressed to born in not in USSR. But in letter addressed to candidates, including Prokhorov, I just try to present them that they're criminal, unfortunately, yeah? I mean, criminal, Prokhorov is criminal, Zyuganov is criminal, Mironov is criminal, and Zhirinovsky is criminal, because participation in so-called election is illegal, because Putin does not have power to go to the third term. And it's general conclusion of all experts in Constitution of Russia. Because what is written in Constitution, what is written, I'm sorry, they refer to paragraph 81.3, it's exactly that, I'll tell it in Russian, then translate it in English, что that одно и то же лицо не может избираться на пост президента более 2 раз подряд. One person is not able to be elected as a president more than 2 times in a row. And if we analyze in Russian what it means exactly the same, like казнить нельзя помиловать. Execute, how to translate? Execute not possible, помиловать, forgive, yes. And it depends where we put the comma, yes. And it's exactly what is the word is the most important. Enroll or not more. And this defect of formula compensated by the soul of Constitution, because this paragraph 81 is exactly paragraph which tried to prevent the monopolization of power as the experience of previous communist time. It means that no discussion, that the third term impossible at all. And Yeltsin, it was not the first time discussion, because in the Yeltsin time discussion was the same almost, because maybe you remember that Yeltsin was elected the first time before the new constitution, and only after that was new constitution, and was discussion, is able Yeltsin to go for the next term. It means third term or the second term. And the answer was given by experts. It means that Putin criminal already, because he completely broke constitution. But if candidates to presidential power, I mean for men, took a decision not to participate in election, Putin was not able to go to election. Because again, okay, maybe he said, okay, it doesn't matter, the constitution does not allow to go just alone. It could be. But it means that each of them responsible for criminal events. Each of them is part of criminal technology. It means that each of them is criminal. And they're simply able to stop this criminal event. Sorry.
You, sir, had a question.
Yeah, actually, thank you for the lecture. And one question. Many people say that it was you, and you confirmed it, that it was you who directed the policy in our country in the 1996.
Who?
Sorry?
Could you remember? Me who what?
You told that you helped Yeltsin to re-elect.
Yeah.
Probably it's true. Then you helped Putin to get elected in 1990, in 2000. And actually, well, I think it's not a surprise that it was you who directed the policy of Russia. And well, after that, as you told, that something happened between Putin and you had to go to the Great Britain. And now you're fighting for Russia. And which result would you like to achieve? What do you want?
First of all, it's absolutely correct that I support Yeltsin in '96. The second is correct that I support Putin in '99 and 2000. And my idea to support based only on a simple understanding, my personal understanding, what is the best for Russia. It doesn't mean that I haven't done mistakes. Yeah, I have done, I think, a lot of mistakes. But it's absolutely important for me that I participate in '96 election, Yeltsin against of communists. And if you don't mind, I focus a little bit on that and then a little bit on 99. But the simple answer to your question is, I think that I understand what Russia needs, and I think that nothing special. Russia needs the same democracy like in this country, for example. The way to democracy for each country could be different, but the democracy itself, nothing new. There are definitely some special cultural or historical problem, but mainstream is absolutely clear what is that. There is no so-called суверенная демократия, like Surkov present to us, yeah, or some different. And what is important, I think, as far as '96 is concerned, that today, again, with a lot of discussion, was it correct what was done in '96? For example, recently Navalny, who you, I think, know well, I was told that he present his speech at your university as well, at your school. And recently he gave interview to Mr. Kiselov from former time, yeah, now based in Ukraine. And Kiselov asked Navalny, what do you think about that if, let's say, in the second round, Putin and Zyuganov will fight in the second round, and if Zyuganov win, what do you think about it? He said, it's good, because it's democracy. And if Zyuganov win, no problem. And I think, said Navalny, that if in '96 oligarchs and others did not try to stop Zyuganov, now we have a fantastic country. Because all post-Soviet Union space country passed through the same way. They stopped communism, then returned back to so-called communism. And now they are in the mainstream of democracy. And I think Navalny is absolutely wrong, because he doesn't understand, if Russia returned back to communism in '96, no one country from post-Soviet Union space was able to return back to democracy. Because Russia is the heart and vertebra of political power on the East, on East Europe. And I really participate in supporting of Yeltsin in '96. And I am sure, and today more than before, that it was so important to stop communism in '96, because exactly 10 Yeltsin years create a new generation, as we discussed before, born not in USSR. This generation formed mentally in Yeltsin and Putin decades, but in decades were a lot of freedom. And if Zyuganov won election in '96, definitely impossible to discuss about what would be in politics, yes. But if we decide to analyze, yes, it's correct, yes. I am sure that not Zyuganov lead the country, but person like Mokashov, the most radical communist, took power finally, and Russia definitely would be completely different and much worse country than Russia is today. That's it.
I had a man at the back and then one up there.
Boris Abramovich, to comment on Mr. Medvedev's comments, which he said a few weeks ago that the elections in '96 were forged, especially in the first part of the elections. This is Zyuganov who won the election.
Yes.
So I would like Boris Abramovich to comment on that. And also in correlation to the movement which is now in Russia for the Чистые выборы, for the clean elections. Okay. What would you think about it?
Yeah.
And also, as a comment to what you just said, do you really believe that Zyuganov had the potential and power to reinstate the Soviet Union in '96? Don't you think that Mr. Putin has more potential political figure who can recreate the Soviet empire of 70s and 80s? Don't you think that Zyuganov is just a puppet figure of the president? Thank you.
Okay, 3 questions. Medvedev. I don't know. Did you read Chubai's answer to that? He answered to that story. I think this story is real. I think that really Medvedev said that. You know that presidential administration refused, but Nemtsov and some other who present there, they said no. He said that. I'm sure that he said that. He said that because of against political technology, they want to say, oh, come on, we are tricky. No, no, no. We are not the first who are tricky. We are the second who are tricky. The first was Yeltsin tricky. It means that let's forget that we are leading as the crooks. We are not leading. Yeltsin crook, and we just continue what he had done. I was not the head of the election campaign of Yeltsin like Chubais, and Chubais said, you made this, you start a very dangerous way, because if Yeltsin is illegal, Putin is illegal, and Medvedev is illegal.